other existing, diseases like malaria, typhoid, and the rest. So in most cases, when people experience those kinds of symptoms and signs,
for example,
let's say headache, fatigue, nausea, lack of appetite, someone might think that he or she either has malaria or typhoid. So if this person goes to the clinic and does the test for malaria or typhoid and is not really detected, so some people think that maybe they have either been bewitched or something like that. So hepatitis B is actually a silent killer, which does not actually show signs and symptoms for actually a very long period of time. So during this month of the hepatitis awareness, we encourage all Ugandans to actually go to the nearest health facilities and seek for these services, at least testing, because it all starts with testing. If you can't go to the facility to test, you can't know whether you have hepatitis B or don't have.
And so that is simply from a blood test?
Exactly.
Okay.
Interesting. You said that it takes time for the symptoms to actually, showcase. How long are we looking at?
The gestation period for hepatitis B is actually 90 days. But even in those 90 days, so we have what we call acute hepatitis and chronic hepatitis. So for acute hepatitis is the kind of hepatitis that an adult acquires or anyone acquires within a period of 6 months. So due to the immune system of someone, it can actually clear in that period of 6 months. So if it persists beyond 6 months is what we call chronic hepatitis. So the 4.3% prevalence that you've been looking at in the just recently concluded study is for those people that have chronic hepatitis. These people might have acquired the virus when they are 5 years and below, and because their immune system was very weak, they were not able to clear it, and they persistently lived with hepatitis B virus.
And where do we put the health workers in all of this? Because when you mention if I go to a hospital and they're checking for malaria, checking for typhoid, I don't have any, and they just put me on some medication, yes? The health system within our country being able to acknowledge and say, this is what you might need to check for now.
You're very right. Right now, as we speak, the awareness, even amongst the health workers, is still very limited. And that's why we are urging all stakeholders to take hepatitis as a serious disease, so that it is also accorded the same priority like other diseases. So we encourage that there should be continuous trainings for health workers to understand the management of hepatitis B and also the detection of hepatitis B virus. In most cases, when you go to the hospital or any facility, you rarely see a doctor, even if you're showing signs and symptoms. Some doctors would rarely actually run to testing hepatitis, because it's like a new kind of disease that is coming onto the the public. So that is the challenge that we have even with the health workers. But the Minister of Health has actually been trying to reach out to the regions that have high prevalence with training them, but the trainings are never adequate enough to build the capacity of these health workers to really detect hepatitis B.
Correct. You've said that hepatitis B is a virus, and we all know that a virus can clear by themselves, but you say there's acute, there's chronic. So what organ ideally does this virus attack in the body?
Yeah, thank you so much. Hepatitis B actually attacks the liver. Hepa is liver, then titis is disease, so it is a liver disease that attacks the liver. And once it has attacked this liver and progresses to some advanced stages, it can actually cause to what we call liver cirrhosis, scarring of the liver, liver cancer, and liver failure. And 80% of the liver cancer cases registered at Uganda Cancer Institute as a result of hepatitis B.
Wow.
But unfortunately, it is only at that stage that people begin to diagnose cancer, but they do not know the root causes of cancer. So if we actually understood the root causes of the liver cancers happening at Uganda Cancer Institute, then it would give us a big advantage of creating more awareness, so that people can get tested, and those who are not positive, they can be vaccinated. Those who are actually positive can seek further medical attention, because not everyone who has actually hepatitis B requires treatment.
Correct.
It is just 30% of those people living with hepatitis B, chronic hepatitis B, that will require treatment. So one needs to go into a lot of investigations to determine whether he or she would actually require this treatment or not.
Treatment options?
Yeah, treatment options. We have actually a manufacturer of these drugs in Uganda, Cipla Quality Chemicals, does manufacture the treatment of hepatitis. That is tenofovir 300 milligrams. And once you've been identified to be put on treatment, the treatment is actually given lifelong, so you take it for the rest of your life.
Lifelong.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
But now there's also the vaccination bit of things, which you also mentioned. Now, as a country, as Uganda, we are at the forefront. Having been rolled out in 2015, we have had a bit of issues with some of the fake vaccinations on the market, but there's for those who actually go get tested and you find out that you do not have it, the vaccination.
Yeah, well, that issue of the fake vaccines, I think, has been cleared by the National Drug Authority,
yes,
which actually did stringing and also did a lot of investigations, and the reports that they actually found out was that the vaccines were actually not fake, but these vaccines might have been stolen from the government health facilities and rebranded, but the content still remained the same. So the issue was about their potency. Were they still effective like they were before they were, taken away from the government health facilities? So for those people who test and they are negative, actually you're supposed to be vaccinated. And there are 3 doses that one requires to have full protection. The first dose, you can have it like today, and then the second dose, you have it after 1 month from the first dose. Then the last dose, you have it after 6 months from the first dose. If you default along the way, it is not recommended for you to start afresh. Actually, you just have to proceed to complete your 3 doses, and the doses protect you for the rest of your life.
So it will still be effective?
Yeah, it will still be effective. Yeah.
All right.
Do we have any stigma around this now for those that you say you're going to have to take all these drugs for a lifetime? The stigma, because one thing is some are not aware about it. Those that are could be too scared about it.
Yeah, actually, as we talk right now, the stigma related to hepatitis B lately is actually much higher than that related to HIV. We have seen cases whereby even at hospital level, because the health workers are not well educated, you find that if someone has been diagnosed with hepatitis B, they are put in a separate ward where other people are not placed, which is actually very wrong, because hepatitis B does not just transmit through
air,
casual contact or air or sweat as people perceive it. No, these are all misconceptions surrounding the transmission of hepatitis B. So even we have seen in families, because they are not educated, they have isolated some of their family members who have been diagnosed with hepatitis B. They don't want to eat together, they don't want to sleep in the same house, so which is very unfortunate. But given the awareness that is coming now on board, we think that with time, all these myths and misconceptions surrounding hepatitis B will actually be dealt with.
You have mentioned that one of the transmission avenues are through salons. We all go to the barber, to the salon. Nowadays, even women get haircuts. We get our manicures and pedicures. So just inform us today, what should we do then? Because this is a necessary evil. We all have to look good. So what should I do in terms of making sure that I am safe as much as I have to go to this health beauty center? Yeah,
sure. You're very right. I think the most important thing is to be conscious of our lives. At least there are designated barber shops that have sterilized equipment.
Okay.
So, you should just be very keen to a salon that you go to. If a salon does not have the sterilized equipment, then you might be at risk of contracting the hepatitis B virus. Because just imagine someone has hepatitis B and has come to the salon, has been shaved and may be injured somehow. And then the blood sticks on the machine. The virus is able to live even after 7 days. Actually, for 7 days from the time it is on this machine. So imagine how many people come through the salon and they are shaved through the same machine, which is not sterilized, which is not cleaned up. So how many people would be having the transmission? And for me, I have a perception even that the reason why the prevalence of hepatitis B is higher in men compared to women, that could be one of the, driving factors.
But what is sterilization? Because someone would say that, okay, I go to this barber shop, they have this sterilization box, but what is sterilization?
Well, I think what we need to understand here when it comes to sterilization is the equipment they are using also functional? Because someone might just put a machine in his or her salon for purposes of psychologically, tampering with your psychology. But when this machine is actually not functioning or, faulty, so that is where the problem comes. You need to be sure that the machine in this barbershop is actually functional. And
so how does it look like if it's functional?
of course, there are lights that they bring. So that is something that you need to watch out for when you come to these barbershops. Yeah,
it shouldn't be off the entire time and they just pull out the anju.
Yeah.
But now another thing that we mentioned is that with HIV and AIDS, we see mother-to-child transmission not being there these days. Is there an option of that from the mother to child for a lady who perhaps goes ahead, gets tested after this show, discovers she has it, her chances of being a mother?
Yes, well, with hepatitis, actually hepatitis B is actually also prevented the same way as HIV. So if a pregnant mother who has hepatitis B tests, that's the most important thing, is to go for the antenatal and
ask
clinic
for that test as well.
We have a policy which says pregnant mothers have to be tested, but the practice, is not that these tests are offered until a mother asks for them in particular, health settings. So once a mother gets to know that he or she, she has hepatitis B, then she has to tell the doctors during delivery so that there is no blood contact, during birth. The same way as HIV.
So this woman can still go for natural birth?
Of course, she can still go for natural birth. The most important thing is to inform the doctors that I have hepatitis B, so that during the cutting of the umbilical cord, they, avoid the blood contact.
Okay. And breastfeeding and what follows after that?
It doesn't spread through breastfeeding.
That bit we know we're okay.
Exactly, yeah.
We're trying to demystify the entire stigma.
But the most
it.
important thing for the mothers is to make sure that during antenatal, they test for hepatitis B.
As we come to a close, just specifics, because now we need to equip ourselves and the public and that viewer who is watching us today with the detailed information with regards to how they can protect themselves. So we said that a sterilization box has to have the lights and you have to see that it's functioning.
Exactly.
But if, for example, you've just had the haircut using this machine and I come in next and they have to use the same machine on me, how long should this machine take inside that sterilization box for me to know that, okay, it's now free of any viruses?
I think if the sterilizing equipment is okay, 10 to 15 minutes is okay for the virus to have.
So we all get cheated. Because I've taken my son to the barber shop, and you'll find that if there's a long queue, it's quick fire.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
You're shaved, and then immediately it's the next person using the same machine. So let me ask you, these spirits they spray on the machine, is that enough to just kill off all the viruses?
Those spirits used in those barber shops do not actually remove the virus in any way. They don't actually remove the virus. Maybe for the surgical spirit, but these methylated spirits, they actually do not remove the virus from those machines.
So it's up to each and every person that is watching, that has watched today, to also go ahead and inform the barber. Sadma she texts her son the next time, we'll tell him, I think you need to know that this is what you could be spreading to the next person.
That's true.
If you choose not to sterilize the equipment that you're using. And for those that are going into the hospital today, if you're not feeling well, if perhaps you're going to get a blood check, ask for that to also be one of the tests, just to know where you stand. And for those who know where you stand, but you haven't yet gotten the vaccine, go ahead and get it.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's very true.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kenneth Kawagambe, for joining us this morning. He is the founding executive director of the National Organization for People Living with Hepatitis B, the only patient-driven non-governmental organization advocating for the rights of hepatitis B patients in Uganda. As the month of May comes to an end, now you know, and you can be able to educate someone else who hasn't been able to watch the show this morning. We're going to take a short break, but we'll be coming right back.
Thank you so much.